Welcome back to the deep dive. This time we're going to be taking a look at cybersecurity in Europe,
Hmm.
especially with that DORA deadline coming up early 2025.
Right.
You gave us some really interesting reports to work with for this deep dive,
Yeah.
and it seems like you were particularly interested in how prepared European companies actually are.
Yeah, definitely some interesting stuff in there.
There's some pretty wild stats in here.
For sure. There's a lot to unpack.
Like this security scorecard report,
Yeah.
it says that companies with an A rating in cybersecurity are almost 14 times less likely
Wow.
to experience a data breach.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, that's not just like a small edge. That's a whole different ball game.
Absolutely. Like you're playing a completely different sport at that point.
But then
But here's the catch.
only 26% of Europe's top companies actually have that A rating.
Yeah. So that's a big red flag right there.
So there's like a massive gap there.
A huge discrepancy.
What's going on with the other 74% of companies?
That's the question, isn't it?
Are they just like completely ignoring this or?
Well, if you dig a little deeper into the report,
Okay.
it seems like one of the biggest issues is third-party breaches.
Hmm.
A staggering 98% of European companies had to deal with them in 2024 alone.
Wait, 98%?
98%.
So basically everybody.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a widespread problem.
That's crazy. What kind of breaches are we even talking about here?
It's a real mix.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything from like those ransomware attacks and data leaks
Yeah.
to things that are a bit more subtle, like compromised credentials
Yeah.
that are being used to get into sensitive systems.
Oh, wow.
And the impact of those breaches,
Yeah.
it can be really significant,
Okay.
We're talking financial losses,
Of course, yeah.
reputational damage,
Makes sense.
regulatory fines, like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. So this third-party thing is a big deal.
It's a major vulnerability for sure.
Is DORA going to be, like, focusing on that specifically?
Absolutely. DORA is all about building what they call operational resilience.
Right.
And that means, like, understanding and mitigating risks,
Yeah.
including the risks that come with these third-party vendors.
Okay.
You can't just rely on your own defenses anymore.
Right.
You need to make sure that everyone in your network is up to par.
So it's like a chain reaction, right?
Exactly.
If one link breaks, the whole thing falls apart?
One weak link can bring down the whole system.
That's a good way to put it. And so that's why DORA is really pushing companies to look at their third-party relationships.
Yeah, they need to be scrutinizing those relationships much more closely now.
So who are they working with? What kind of access do they have?
Right. Are they following proper security protocols?
Okay, so that's what companies need to be asking themselves.
These are crucial questions, yeah.
And not just asking, but like actually doing something about it.
Absolutely. Action is key.
Otherwise, when DORA comes knocking.
They're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. But makes me wonder, with all these third-party breaches happening, does size even matter anymore?
That's a good question.
Are bigger companies still safer than smaller ones?
Well, the report does show that larger companies tend to have better cybersecurity scores overall.
Okay, so it does matter a bit.
It does to some extent, yeah. They probably just have more resources to dedicate to cybersecurity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that doesn't mean that they're immune to these threats.
Right.
There are tons of examples of big companies getting hit by major breaches.
Yeah, that's true. So it's not just about size, it's about how seriously you take cybersecurity.
That's exactly it. It's about having that security-first mindset.
You can have the best technology, but if your employees aren't trained properly,
Or if your vendors are lax with their security practices.
right, you're still vulnerable.
Absolutely.
So even a giant company can trip over its own shoelaces.
Yeah, if they're not careful.
Is there any industry that like stands out as being particularly at risk here?
One sector that's really lagging behind, according to the report, is the energy sector.
Hmm.
A whopping 75% of energy companies in Europe received C rating or lower for their cybersecurity posture.
Whoa. That's pretty bad.
It's definitely a cause for concern.
Why is the energy sector having such a hard time keeping up?
Well, energy companies, they face a really unique set of challenges.
Okay.
First of all, they're responsible for critical infrastructure.
Right.
So any disruption to their operations
Yeah.
can have like massive consequences.
That's true.
And second, they're being targeted more and more by these sophisticated cyber attacks,
Mhm.
often state-sponsored,
Oh, wow.
looking to disrupt energy supplies
Okay.
or steal sensitive data.
So they're a prime target,
They are a high-value target for sure.
but they're not exactly prepared.
It seems that way, unfortunately.
They're dealing with legacy systems,
Complex supply chains.
a shortage of cybersecurity professionals.
It's a perfect storm of vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So we got this whole issue with these third-party breaches.
Right.
Sounds like the energy sector is really in hot water.
Definitely a sector to watch.
But let's get back to the big thing in the room here. What exactly is DORA?
Right. DORA stands for the Digital Operational Resilience Act.
Okay.
And it's this major piece of legislation coming out of the European Union.
Right.
It's basically a set of rules that are designed to make sure that companies in the financial sector
Okay.
can withstand these cyber attacks and other disruptions.
So it's like about making sure the whole financial system doesn't collapse because of some hacker in their basement.
Exactly. It's about ensuring the stability of the entire financial ecosystem.
But it's not just about banks, right?
No, it goes way beyond that.
Okay.
DORA covers insurance companies, payment providers, investment firms,
Yeah.
even crypto asset service providers.
Oh, wow.
Basically, any entity that plays a critical role in that financial ecosystem.
So it's about protecting the whole system from digital chaos.
You got it.
So this is a big deal, but it all sounds pretty high level. Can you break it down for us?
Sure.
What are some of the specific things DORA is going to be focusing on?
Well, one of the core elements is risk management. Companies are going to have to get really serious about identifying, assessing, and managing their ICT risks in a very systematic way.
So that ties back to what we were talking about with these third-party breaches.
Exactly. Managing third-party risk is a huge part of DORA.
It's all connected.
It is, yeah. Companies need to be just as rigorous about their vendors' security practices as they are about their own.
So it's like a ripple effect. You got to make sure your security standards extend outward to everyone you're connected to.
It's a great way to think about it.
Another key area is incident reporting.
Definitely, DORA introduces some pretty strict rules about reporting major ICT incidents to the authorities.
Right. The more transparency there is, the better everyone can understand the threats.
And how to defend against them, yeah.
Exactly. And it helps build trust in the system.
For sure.
DORA also puts a lot of emphasis on having really solid recovery plans in place.
That's right.
If something does happen,
Yeah.
companies need to be able to get back on their feet quickly.
Recovery and business continuity are crucial.
So it's not just about putting up walls to keep the bad guys out.
Right.
It's about having that escape route if they do manage to get in.
Exactly. You need to be prepared for both scenarios.
That's a good analogy. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I want to pause for a second.
Sure.
Make sure our listener is still with us.
I'm good.
So to recap, European companies are facing this really tough cybersecurity landscape right now.
Yeah, there are some serious challenges out there.
We've got this huge issue with third-party breaches.
Right.
Energy sector seems especially vulnerable.
Definitely a high-risk sector.
And then we've got this whole new set of regulations called DORA that's about to shake things up even more.
DORA is a game changer for sure.
But what does all of this mean for you, our listener?
That's the important question.
Why should you care about any of this?
Well, here's the thing. Cybersecurity is not something you can afford to ignore anymore.
It's not just about big corporations and governments.
It affects everyone,
Right,
whether
okay.
you're a small business owner,
Yeah.
an employee.
Or just someone who uses the internet.
Okay.
You need to be aware of the risks and take steps to protect yourself.
Especially with DORA coming into play, right?
Exactly. DORA is raising the bar for everyone.
And it's not just about compliance.
No, it's about so much more than that.
It's about protecting your data, your finances, your reputation.
It's about building a more secure and resilient digital future.
For yourself and everyone around you?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
a shared responsibility. It's kind of like, wearing a seatbelt.
Hmm.
You might not ever need it,
Right.
but if you do, you'll be glad you had it on.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
So with DORA, right around the corner,
Yeah.
do you think companies are actually ready for this massive cybersecurity overhaul?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's a mix of feelings out there.
Okay.
Some companies, especially the bigger ones,
Right.
they've been preparing for this for a while now.
All right.
They've got those dedicated cybersecurity teams.
Yeah.
They've got those robust processes in place.
And they're actively investing in those new technologies.
Makes sense.
But for smaller companies,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a little bit more of a scramble.
I bet a lot of them are feeling pretty overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Where do you even start with something this big?
Yeah. Well, the first step is to understand what DORA actually requires.
Okay.
There's a ton of information out there.
Right.
But it can be pretty hard to sift through it all
Yeah.
and figure out what actually applies to your specific business.
Right.
Thankfully, there are some good resources available
Okay.
from regulators and industry groups that can help with that.
So step 1 is don't panic.
Exactly.
Step 2 is read the manual.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Once you have like a good understanding of those requirements,
Right.
then you can start putting together that roadmap for implementation.
Exactly. You need a plan.
And that's going to involve a whole bunch of things,
That does, yeah.
like reviewing your existing security controls,
Definitely.
potentially upgrading technology, and like crucially training your employees.
Absolutely. That's a big one.
Because even the best security system in the world
Yeah,
won't help if somebody accidentally clicks on a phishing link,
that's so true.
right?
DORA is about so much more than just the technology.
Okay.
It's about creating a culture of cybersecurity awareness,
Hmm.
where everyone in the company understands the importance of security
Right.
and knows how to play their part.
So what does that look like in practice?
Um,
How do you actually build that kind of culture?
well, there are a lot of ways to approach it.
Okay.
Regular security awareness training for all employees is essential.
That makes sense.
You need to make sure that everybody knows how to spot those phishing emails,
Right.
how to create strong passwords, and how to report suspicious activity.
Okay.
Then there are things like establishing clear incident reporting procedures
Hmm.
so that everyone knows exactly what to do if something does happen.
Right. So you're not scrambling around trying to figure it out.
Exactly. You have a plan in place.
And of course.
Regular vulnerability assessments
Yeah.
and penetration testing
Right.
are crucial to identify and fix weaknesses in your systems.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach.
It is.
Technology training processes, the whole shebang.
Exactly. You need to cover all your bases.
And don't forget about those third-party risks we were talking about earlier.
Oh, right. That's a huge part of DORA as well.
You can't just like lock down your own systems and hope for the best.
No, you can't just cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Right. You need to make sure everyone in your network is playing by the same rules.
Exactly.
Mm.
DORA requires companies to be much more proactive
Okay.
about assessing and managing the risks associated with their vendors and partners.
So it's not enough to just trust that they've got things covered.
You need to verify it.
Yeah.
You need to have proof.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare,
It can be.
especially for companies with like a really complex network of suppliers and partners.
Yeah, it can be challenging for sure.
So are there any tools that can help with that?
There are, thankfully.
Okay.
And think of things like vendor risk management platforms
Hmm.
that allow you to centralize all that vendor information,
Right.
assess their security posture, and track their compliance with your requirements.
Okay. So it's about making the process more efficient.
Exactly, more manageable.
So it is a challenge, but not an impossible one.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It just requires a bit of a shift in mindset.
How so?
Well, companies need to start thinking about cybersecurity as an ongoing process,
Mm.
not just a one-time fix.
Right. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, so let's say a company is listening to this
Mm.
and they're like ready to tackle DORA head on.
Yeah.
What are some of the like biggest pitfalls they should watch out for?
Well, one common mistake is treating DORA as just a compliance exercise.
Okay.
It's really easy to get caught up in ticking boxes
Right.
and meeting those deadlines,
Yeah.
but that completely misses the point.
So it's about really embracing the spirit of the regulation,
Exactly. It's about building genuine resilience.
not just going through the motions.
Right, you can't just fake it.
Okay, what else?
Another pitfall is underestimating the complexity of DORA implementation.
Okay.
This isn't something you can just like tack on as an afterthought.
Hmm.
It requires careful planning,
Yeah.
dedicated resources,
Right.
and a commitment from the top down.
So it's not something the IT department can handle on their own?
Definitely not.
It needs to be like a company-wide effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You need buy-in from leadership,
Yeah.
engagement from employees across all departments,
Right.
and a willingness to invest in the necessary resources.
So both financial and human.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are some of the challenges.
Right.
But let's flip the script for a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about the potential benefits of DORA.
Hmm.
What are the good things that could come out of this?
Well, for starters,
Mm-hmm.
companies that fully embrace DORA
Yeah.
are going to be much better equipped to withstand those cyber attacks
Right.
and other disruptions.
Okay.
They'll have stronger defenses, better processes, and a more resilient culture overall.
So it's like building a fortress for your business.
That's a great way to put it.
And a stronger fortress means like more peace of mind for everybody.
Absolutely.
Customers will feel more confident knowing their data is safe.
Right.
Investors will be more likely to invest
Makes sense.
in a company that takes cybersecurity seriously.
Yeah.
And employees will feel more secure knowing they work for a company that's prepared for anything.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation for everyone.
So it's not just about protecting your business.
Right.
It's about building a brand that's known for its security and its trustworthiness.
Exactly. You're building a reputation.
Okay, cool. So that's resilience
Yeah.
and better security.
Right. Well, a strong cybersecurity posture can also be a major competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm. How so?
Well, in today's digital world,
Yeah,
customers are much more discerning than ever.
that's true.
They want to do business with companies that they can trust,
Right.
companies that are taking cybersecurity seriously.
Okay.
DORA can help companies demonstrate that commitment
Right.
and differentiate themselves from the competition.
So it's a selling point.
It can be, yeah.
Okay, so you're protecting your business. You're building a brand.
Right.
What else?
Well, there's the compliance aspect.
Yeah.
By aligning with DORA,
Yeah.
companies are essentially aligning themselves with other relevant cybersecurity regulations and
Makes
standards.
sense.
So it can help streamline those compliance efforts
Mm-hmm.
and reduce the risk of fines and penalties down the road.
So it's like killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
You're improving your security, and
Yeah.
you're making your compliance officer happy.
Everybody wins.
All right, but before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Sure.
there's one question that keeps nagging at me.
Okay.
We've talked about the challenges of DORA, the benefits, the potential pitfalls,
Yeah.
but what about the potential downsides? Are there any unintended consequences that we should be worried about?
Well, one concern is that DORA could, add another layer of complexity, to this already, pretty complicated landscape.
Yeah, it's already a bit of a maze out there.
It is. And companies, especially smaller ones,
Right.
might struggle to keep up with all these new requirements, all
Yeah.
the reporting obligations.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is a lot.
So the intention is to make things more secure,
Right.
but there's a risk of getting bogged down in all this red tape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that could lead to companies focusing more on ticking boxes
Right.
than actually building that security-first culture.
Right. Compliance doesn't always equal competence.
Exactly.
Are there any other potential hiccups we should be thinking about with DORA?
Another concern is that DORA might stifle innovation.
That's interesting. I would have thought that better security
Yeah.
would actually encourage innovation.
It could go either way, really.
Okay.
It all depends on how DORA is implemented and enforced.
Hmm.
If it's seen as this barrier to entry
Right.
for new players
Yeah.
or a disincentive to experiment,
Okay.
that could definitely slow things down.
So it's a balancing act.
Is
Finding that sweet spot between security and innovation.
exactly. And it's something that regulators are going to have to keep an eye on.
Okay, so complexity, innovation. Any other potential snags we should flag for our listener?
Well, there's a cybersecurity skills gap.
Right, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, implementing DORA effectively requires a lot of specialized knowledge, expertise, and the reality is
Yeah.
there just aren't enough qualified people to go around.
So even if companies are willing to invest,
Right.
they might not be able to find the right people to actually do the work.
That's the tough part.
That's a tough spot to be in.
It is, yeah.
So how do we fix that?
Well, it's something that needs to be addressed more broadly through
Um,
education and training programs
Right.
that can equip people with the skills they need.
To thrive in cybersecurity.
Exactly, because just throwing money at the problem isn't going to solve it.
Right, you need the people to actually spend that money on.
You need the talent.
And it's not just about those technical skills.
Right. It's also about soft skills,
Yeah.
like communication, critical thinking, problem solving.
Right. Those are the qualities that make a good cybersecurity professional.
Exactly.
It's a complex problem with no easy solutions.
It is a multifaceted challenge.
That's what we like to talk about on the deep dive.
We like to dig deep.
We don't shy away from the tough stuff.
Absolutely.
So we've talked a lot about DORA and the current cybersecurity landscape.
Right.
But what about the future?
Mm.
Where do you see things heading in the next few years?
Well, one thing's for sure, the threat landscape is going to keep evolving.
The bad guys aren't just going to stop.
They're not going to give up.
They're going to keep coming up with new tricks.
New techniques, new ways to exploit vulnerabilities.
So we can't just sit back and relax.
We have to be constantly adapting and innovating.
So it's an arms race.
In a way, yeah.
The good guys versus the bad guys.
It's a constant battle.
But it's more nuanced than that. right? It's not just about like building bigger walls or buying fancier tools.
Right.
It's about understanding how these attackers think.
Yeah, anticipating their next move.
Right, and building systems that are like resilient to whatever they throw at us.
Got it.
So what are some of the specific trends that you're seeing that could shape the future of cybersecurity?
Well, one trend that's definitely going to continue is the rise of AI.
Artificial intelligence.
Exactly. AI can be used for both good and bad in cybersecurity.
Right.
Attackers are using it to develop more sophisticated attacks.
Right.
But we can also use it to defend ourselves.
How so?
Well, think of things like AI-powered threat detection systems
Okay.
that can analyze huge amounts of data and spot those anomalies that humans might miss.
So it's like using technology to fight fire with fire.
Exactly. AI can be a powerful tool in our arsenal.
Okay, cool. What else?
Another trend is the growing importance of collaboration.
No one company or organization can go it alone in cybersecurity. We need to be sharing information.
Right.
Best practices.
Sharing is caring.
Exactly. Think of things like industry-specific threat intelligence sharing platforms or joint cybersecurity exercises between companies and government agencies.
So it's like two heads are better than one.
But on a global scale.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Okay, what else?
And finally, I think we're going to see a much bigger emphasis on building secure by design systems.
Okay, what does that mean?
So instead of bolting on security as an afterthought, we need to be thinking about security from the very beginning of the development process.
Right from the ground up.
Exactly. This means incorporating those security principles into every stage of the software development lifecycle.
So from design to testing to deployment.
Exactly. It's about baking security into the DNA of our systems.
Not just slapping on a bandage after the fact.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But with all these like advancements in technology.
Yeah. Do you think that like the human element of cybersecurity will become less important?
Not at all.
Okay.
I think the opposite is true.
Really?
Yeah. As technology gets more complex, we need more skilled humans to manage it.
Okay.
To interpret the data it generates and to make those critical decisions.
So you can automate a lot of things.
You can.
But you can't automate everything.
Exactly.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's still humans who are making those choices.
Right. About what data to protect.
Right.
How to protect it and who to trust.
So the future cybersecurity is about finding that balance.
It is.
Between technology and human expertise.
Yeah, using technology to augment our capabilities, not replace them.
Well said. So we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of cybersecurity and DORA.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has. What's the one key takeaway you want to leave our listener with?
Here's the thing. Cybersecurity is not just a technical issue.
Okay.
It's a human issue. It's about making smart choices, being aware of those risks, and taking responsibility for our own security and the security of the systems that we use.
And it's something we all need to be involved in.
It is.
Regardless of our technical skills or job titles.
Everyone has a role to play.
Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together.
We are.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Into the world of cybersecurity. And to our listeners, thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you on the next one.